Hey gang, good morning. It's Saturday. Hope everybody's doing well. Those of you in Australia who are up early, it's Sunday morning. So I hope everybody's having a good weekend. This week was so interesting because it went from one extreme to the other with all sorts of FUD news and good news. And it's so interesting to look at the charts and as to how the market reacts. We're going to do a lot of that today. We're going to look at a lot of data. And we're going to talk about a truckload of things, even a couple of stocks too, but mostly crypto, mostly Bitcoin. So let's jump in. And once again, thank you to the moderators in chat. Happy weekend, everybody. Nick, Pancake. I see you out there, Pancake Panda. What a cool name. So let's go. And of course, this is never financial advice. It's only edutainment. And if you want to amplify your intelligence, you know you need to subscribe to this channel. The story, we'll forget about that. Let's just jump right in like we always do. This is a beautiful little chart here. It talks about kind of the Bitcoin reaction to news. So big week. We had Jay Powell's press conference. Of course, he said, we are going to pause rates, but we're probably going to hike them twice more. And probably bluffing, in my opinion. The market did not receive that well. And you see Bitcoin went down. Then CoinDesk talked about Blackrock issuing a Bitcoin ETF, and it rebounded. Then it was confirmed, and it rebounded more. And that's it. But there was other stuff that happened too. Of course, we've spoken a lot about the SEC going after altcoins and Binance and Coinbase and da-da-da. It's just kind of crazy. So let's talk about China first. Then we'll go back to the US. But this is interesting because this is the first time I've seen a chart from Glassnode literally all written up with Chinese. And I've talked about the URPD before, I think 2 weeks ago on Okta. But the key thing about this, not only is it in Chinese, which means the Chinese are coming and they're investing in Bitcoin and they care, but 780,000 Bitcoin all hover around that key price point, just under 26K. The next biggest tranche where people really tie into what's they call their demand profile is around 16,500. And that is key, those two levels. I don't think we're going back to 16,500 by any stretch. But the fact that we got above the 780K demand profile is cool. I don't speak Chinese, so I couldn't figure out exactly what's happening. But the other good thing about this chart is you look at how much acquisition happens at different prices. So the real smart money kind of starts stacking aggressively when the price goes to the left. And then the further you go up to the right, the price, the buyers literally thin out. So having the largest buy point on the demand profile being at that 26K level is super interesting. And staying above that is also very important. So welcome in Team China. Now, Ordinals, this is a cool little graphic here from the block. And you can see the little blue part is transaction fees and how that exploded in early May 2023 and how it has dwindled away since then. Of course, the block subsidy is the big chunk. That's what the miners live on. But there was a very interesting, big, what I call flash in the pan in early May, which will impact miners' results. If anybody wants me to do a miner update next week, let me know in the comments below and I'll do it for you guys. My miner videos are the least viewed of any videos that I do, but those that do miners and invest in miners love them. So let me know. I'll work for what people want. Now, Ordinals, could they be making a comeback? So there's news now out about Ordinals 2.0. By the way, in case you missed it, Ordinals 1.0 caused that blue spike. This is now Ordinals 2.0, much higher res image. They call it recursive inscriptions, which allow inscriptions to reference one another. And this expands the possibilities of what can be inscribed, streamlines the process, and reduces associated costs. So this is a pretty cool little development on Bitcoin, probably to the ire of all the Bitcoin maxis out there. It's like, no, we were hoping these guys would go away. But anyway, this will also help create higher quality NFTs and more complex applications with this recursive inscriptions. And you can see here, the first one was kind of 17 by 17 pixels. Now it'll be 1024 by 1024 pixels at 0.19 kilobytes. So it'll be bigger, heavier, about 10x. the weight is the same size in terms of kilobytes, but the point is the res is much better because of that recursion or inversion or recursiveness or whatever they call it. I don't know, but this could drag a lot more people back to the chain for a 2.0 version of Ordinals. We'll see. Good for miners anyway. Let's talk about what's happening soon. 303 days to the Bitcoin halving, and I have been talking about April 14th since the beginning of the year. Now it looks like it might be out another day to April 15th, but either way, 300 days to go, and that's not a lot of time. That goes real fast. And this is a cool little graphic as well from the Rational Root, and it looks at the market cap of different assets around the world. You know, Bitcoin is the gold and how it's been growing every cycle. But the key thing is after the halving, which is at noon up there, the market cap spikes. And in the past, what's interesting about this is we have actually pierced silver's market cap a couple of times. I do believe before halving or post halving, we will smash through that silver market cap. And then the next target is gold at 10 trillion. The market cap of silver is about 1 trillion for those of you who need a reminder. That is going to happen next year. Pretty certain of that. Let's talk about some of the other good news, despite all, we'll get into the FUD in a second too. But BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, there was a lot of rumors. Oh, is it really a spot ETF or is it a futures ETF? Well, it's a spot ETF. And a couple of things about BlackRock I've mentioned. They have filed something like 547 ETFs over the past couple of years, and they got approved for 546. Only in one case was one ETF not approved. BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager. The US government probably works for BlackRock, I believe. And they've also partnered with NASDAQ to enter a surveillance sharing agreement. And why is this significant? Well, because the SEC has denied several applications for Bitcoin ETFs because they were concerned about market manipulation. If the NASDAQ is surveilling exactly what's going on with the ETF, then sharing trading activity, clearing activity, customer information with the exchange. This will allow NASDAQ to monitor and mitigate any possibility of market manipulation by the trust sponsor, who would be BlackRock. So this could be their magic sauce to getting approved. No other ETF submission had this language, so big shout out to CoinDesk, and everybody else is talking about it right now as well. So let's talk about the FUD and fear that freaked people out this week. The USDT Untethering Freakout. The peg to the US dollar came under pressure on the 15th of June, 2 days ago, when Curve's 3 pool became over 60% USDT. And the company, Tether is the company behind USDT, claims this was due to market manipulation. Now, Tether has improved its asset composition since there was a previous investigation by the New York Attorney General. And it is now a profitable company because they're making money on Bitcoin and gains and 5% interest on all of the money that they sit on, etc. It's become quite a lucrative machine. And but there was a statement back in the New York Attorney General thing that they claimed that Tether claimed that its virtual currency was fully backed by US dollars at all times. This was clearly a lie because it wasn't. But now they're getting much better with the assets they have backing this. So again, it wasn't a point for concern. The world was freaking out about it for about 6 hours, and then as usual, it goes away. But what's interesting about Tether FUD, it always marks bottoms. So next time, ladies and gentlemen, you see Tether FUD, think of it as a buying opportunity. I sure did, and that was a signal for me. And again, this is the beauty. Some people say I'm very cavalier when stuff goes wrong, but I just know it's just, when you see it so many times, it's like the boy who cried wolf. You interpret it a different way, and that's what I'm trying to share with you all here as well. So again, Tether FUD marks the bottoms. Let's jump a little bit ahead to Circle USDC, and a lot of questions were, what should I do with my Tether if it depegs? Should I flip it into USDC? It was only a tiny issue for a very short window of time, but what this cool chart does show from Keiko is the liquidity for stablecoin markets is more important than ever. And you can see here, Circle's USDC is the most liquid on centralized exchanges, with about $38 million of bids preventing a 0.1% price deviation. That's quite a bit more than the Tether amount in gray you see there. And BUSD, well, that's dying on the vine, etc. But the point is, it's going to be very hard for Circle to depeg with all of that action that we see right now as well. Now, next piece of FUD stuff with a big relief. SEC did cut a deal with Binance. You can see here, again from CoinDesk, SEC strike deal to move all US customer funds, wallet keys back onshore. That means on US soil, which is good. And I am impressed with the speed at which they settled so fast. So I don't know exactly what happened behind the scenes, but the court seems to was very helpful in solving all of this. So the big takeaways from the deal with Binance are as follows. My summary from the documents that I read. So first of all, Binance will pay a $100 million fine. People say, oh my God, that's so much. But no, to a company like Binance, that's a tiny, tiny smack on the wrist. Not a problem. They need to register with the SEC as a securities exchange, hire a compliance officer, and establish a new subsidiary in the US to handle its US business. And it's nice to see settling so fast. Nothing to Binance. And I think this is a net positive for crypto. So Binance.us, for all intents and purposes, is not going away. There is still some concern around some of the things that the SEC labels securities, but we'll talk more about those guys in a minute. And I did mention as well many times too, just like Tether, FUD, Binance.us, even if it disappeared, it would be a nothing burger because the amount of volume that they do in Binance.us compared to the rest of Binance is nothing. But it is. Binance is a very key player in the whole market. So the fact that the SEC and the US is kind of solving this problem fast is a very good net positive for crypto. Again, people were freaking out for no reason. I should have called this the Freakout for no reason video. Let's look at the 5 days of delisting hell. Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin is actually up 3 or 4% since all of this delisting SEC stuff came out. Thank you so much for the sandwich, KN. You can see other names as well. Ethereum is down a bit. Some questions there as well. Binance down 11%, but it has been recovering very well. Render, a great sniping opportunity the other day, which I availed of. Solana down 19%. Matic down 23%, and so is Cardano down 23%. So there is still a little bit of a hangover from all of this, but the recovery is underway. And the question is, as I say, worst case scenario, even if the US forced all the US exchanges to delist all of these tokens, think of it like a 13% haircut over a short window of time, then the rest of the world will buy them up cheap, okay, if they look at fundamentals. And that's why, use this as an opportunity. Let's look at some other news from Nansen. And despite SEC lawsuits, May was an incredible month for growth in the crypto market. Some people still believe we're in a bear market, but these numbers clearly say otherwise. And these are growth rates for some of the top 5 cryptocurrencies by market capitalization in May. Solana monthly active users is up 86% to 9.5 million monthly active users. Binance Chain 14%. Again, after all Binance has been through, the users are still up to 12 million monthly active users. Remember, Binance Chain has so much going on, and it's not like a layer 1 per se. It's very much a centralized chain. Tron, 12.1 million. That is also up 121%. Tron is heavily used by people in Asia for gambling and those types of applications, hence the huge amount of users out there. And it's quite impressive. And these numbers show that the market is still growing despite regulatory challenges, and the long-term trend is still very bullish. Now, the question is, at this rate, which chain will get to 1 billion users first? That's what we're trying to figure out. So let's look at a visual perspective of this. I think it's always interesting to skin the data a different way. Solana is up 86% month over month. Tron 121%. Optimism 22%. BNB 14%. And Ethereum actually shrank 4% in monthly active users. So that's, again, growth rate interesting to look at as well as we go forward. Now, switching gears, talking about Tesla for a minute. Elon Musk spoke in Paris yesterday, and he believes that the company's market cap is directly tied to its ability to solve autonomous driving. And I can hear groans already. Musk said that the value of autonomous driving is so high that it could offset relatively low numbers of Tesla's vehicles produced every year. No matter where you are in the world, you're going to see more and more of these cars wherever you go. But the key is he believes that the success of Tesla's autonomous driving technology could have a major impact on the automotive industry. I've been a beta user for a long time. It is so good right now. It is insane. Not perfect. Nothing's perfect. But boy, the development is accelerating in leaps and bounds, getting faster and faster. So I think they're going to crack the code. But you got to zoom out and think about this, okay? If he talks about the explosive impact of them nailing FSD, he says they have a good chance of nailing it by the end of this year. Think about what that would do to the stock price. Again, it could 4x. It could become a $4 trillion company very, very easily. And also when we zoom out, yes, Tesla's been up 160% in 160 days, but we still have a long way to go. In fact, there's another 60% of gainers there if it just gets back to all-time high. And now the world is beginning to see exactly where this company is coming from and where it can go. And now that the risk of FSD being real all of a sudden changes the whole calculus of the value of the company. Now, switching gears as well to Nvidia. Watch what the insiders do. Watch what the whales do. Watch what the big money does, ladies and gentlemen. Said this 1,000 times. Harvey Jones, who's been on the Nvidia board since 1993, sold more than $76 million worth of shares since a couple of weeks ago. It's basically since June 1st. On June 14th, he sold about 120,000 shares and then another 70,000 shares as well before that or after that. I can't quite read this data. And the CEO also sold a truckload and a few other players. But what's great about this is they know exactly where the top is of the market. So this is a good sign for those of you kind of waiting for it to take a breather. These folks typically are very good at nailing tops of markets. So I expect Nvidia to come down from its crazy run. Also, speaking of AI kills voice actors apparently. A new article by CNBC Pro. AI human voice clones are coming for Amazon, Apple, Google audiobooks. And they believe as well, the key part of this article is not only can AI mimic voices, so you could have a famous actor or actress, and this AI can now read a book in their voice, or you can mass customize it to listen to the voice that you like. If you like whatever those TV personalities are, or a famous celebrity or singer, you can actually play a book using the AI-generated voices to some extent. And sadly, voice actors, if there are such things out there still, their career is at an end because now AI can do it automatically in seconds, which is stunning. Now, let's talk a bit about macro and what's happening with credit crunch. I'll be talking about my biggest fear for the Fed is not monitoring what's happening with credit. And per this chart here, you can see credit crunch is here, and this will also crush CPI. Because when there's no money, there's no fun. No money out there, nobody's lending, there is no cash in the system, and this grinds everything to a halt. This should be an alarm bell for our Fed. But of course, they're data-driven, but not really, or the data they look at is years old. I don't know. But you can see here the dollar amount of loans and leases declined by $50 billion over the last 2 weeks. And this is the second steepest contraction over the past 2 years. Disinflation, probably coming. We've seen the prices fall so fast, but this will be accelerated by this. As I say, credit crunch, when it's there, it crushes the CPI. And this could have a huge economic input and impact as well. But it will definitely bring the inflationary pressures way down as we go forward. And in other news tied to the Fed and the money and government, and again, this is US data, but it's the same all around the world. We made it to $32 trillion in debt. Yoo-hoo! Excellent, everybody. You can see here the US added another $1 trillion over the last 250 days. Big thank you to Charlie Bilello for sharing this. And it's insane how fast it's growing. But the elephant in the room here is forget the 32 trillion. Look at the 191.5 trillion that's unfunded. that is the real concern. Now, when you look at 192 plus 32, that's what is that, $224 trillion. That is just the US is beyond even imaginable. Okay, so we are in this crazy death spiral, and just food for thought regarding numbers. And the reason I share this is because it's so important to have hard assets, ladies and gentlemen. So tax revenue in the US is $5 trillion. A deficit every year now is $2 trillion, which will accelerate. The net that they pull in is $3 trillion. And if the government did nothing, if they didn't spend another penny, but just used their money from tax revenue after the deficit, it would take them 75 years to pay off debt. We are not escaping this debt spiral. That's why central bank digital currencies are coming. That way they can control everything much better. It's going to be a godsend to governments and hell for the individual. So get some protection, ladies and gentlemen. You know what to do. So that's today's story. Interesting week behind us. Badness and goodness. But at the end of the day, everything kind of has a silver lining. So look forward to seeing you on the inside and Patreon. We still have some open seats. But this stuff does sell out. We do close it. It's capped anyway, but it will, when the bull market, I believe the bull market's here, but typically it does close out before that. So if anybody wants some cool alpha, come on the inside. And thank you everybody on Patreon who is here. Bitcoin is at 26.6. Nice round numbers. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Batman. Thank you, KN, San Bernardino, Mike, St. Jude Needs Us, and everybody out there. Be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for the live Q&A, which is fed by Patreon. All the top questions for the week, and this week is, as always, different but interesting. And as usual, everybody's still concerned about kind of security in wallets and where to go next. But anyway, thank you all for spending some time with me on your weekend, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye. Wrong slide.